What's good, y'all? Gerald Moore Jr. here. Just on a drive throughout Westerville, Ohio, as my kids rest in the back. Just left the mall, playground, Auntie Annie's, the whole nine. But I wanted to talk not only about fatherhood, but fatherhood and cannabis, because it's so taboo. But we get to see the women, the women out there, particularly white women, they get to boast about their cannabis use and how cannabis helps them be better moms and better parents. Well, I want to double down on that, triple down on that, quadruple down on that. Cannabis helps me be a better father, a better parent, a better partner, a better human being. Because as an African American male, yes, I have some anger, I have some pent up aggression, yes, I have some things I'd love to get off my chest physically, emotionally, towards a certain group of people, but I can't necessarily do that because we live in this politically correct world that, if you come out a certain way as certain people, you will lose everything, especially being a black successful man in America, because they'll just say you're angry. And then they'll just redirect the conversation. So you don't even get to have the conversation. You don't even get to be a part of it because they'll just say, hey, you're angry, your emotions, this. And then we're going to take our time and study what actually happened. We're going to take our time to break things down. But that's neither here nor there. I live in Ohio, and Ohio has a medical marijuana program, which, fortunately and unfortunately, I guess, I have a qualifying condition for, with chronic pain, being arthritis, as a former Division I All-American athlete, two-time bowl champion, two-time MAC East Division champion, and then an NFL free agent. I've had a lot of experience playing sports and wear and tear on my bodies, training at a high level, performing at a high level, playing in front of thousands of people, millions of people at times. But, a lot of times as men, we don't share our vulnerable parts of us. We don't share those stories like I'm sharing, right now, unless we're asked, or unless it's really off the record. And so, I just wanted to make this video for all the dads out there, man, who really, you can't share that, they're a cannabis consumer out of fear of, maybe being treated a certain type of way, maybe losing their kids, maybe, there's all types of things that typically happen to us men, especially black men, African American men, when the idea of cannabis comes up, and parenting. And so I just want to say, I started consuming cannabis before I became a parent, and that's when I really realized its benefits for me as an athlete. But then once I got to college, I went to Ohio University, and I saw many of my peers consuming, even those that didn't play sports. A lot of those didn't play sports, and my peers that did play sports, they also consumed. But I also understood at that point, once I started studying healthcare, because I got my degree in healthcare administration, worked in a dermatology office where I'm seeing pharmaceutical sales and the whole nine, and I'm studying the industry. I'm like, oh, well, cannabis ain't that bad, So yeah, it's been an eye-opener though, because, things take time in our society, right? Like, we can legalize it today, but it won't be really mainstream for the next 15, 20 years because we still have to educate, a whole entire group of people and generations of folks who have pretty much demonized this plant for decades at this point. And so I really just want to start lending my voice to the topic, especially as a subject matter expert, playing sports at a high level. Most people would love to perform at that level, but we know most people will never get to that level. We know most people don't have the genetic makeup, the skill set, and so in order to perform at that level, it takes a certain mindset, it takes a certain drive and skill set to perform consistently. And I know there's a lot of athletes and young athletes out there that would love to play, and a lot of times we in the industry of sports, people say, well, athletes shouldn't drink, athletes shouldn't smoke, athletes shouldn't do this, athletes shouldn't eat sugar. And I'll just tell you this: you can do, whatever your heart desires. But the reality is, you can not do anything extracurricular, and you still wouldn't be good enough to play against some of these athletes. Now, that's not saying that if the greatest athletes in the world didn't consume or didn't drink alcohol or didn't consume sugar, wouldn't play better. But we also know that it helps with longevity of your career. The better you take care of yourself. We know LeBron James spends millions of dollars on his body a year just to perform at the level that he smokes at. But we also know LeBron James owns, I believe, a wine and alcohol company. So we know he partakes in consuming that. We saw, Clay and Steph Curry drinking after their championship. So we have to just be real. Like, we're human beings. Human beings are allowed to have the freedom to do whatever they want. And so it's time for, coaches and people in these positions to stop pegging these athletes as being like squares or, not being able to partake in certain things because, it's going to hurt them. Like, yes, be smart. Yes, these things can get you into trouble. Drinking and driving, smoking and driving, all those different things. So I am not pandering for that. I'm just saying that when in the comforts of your own home, when in the comforts of protected spaces, by all means, Also, cannabis helps with a lot of different things. Cannabis helps with pain management. So if you're an athlete or anybody, a human being, and you deal with pain, which we know a lot of people deal with pain because pain is just a natural thing as humans that we deal with because we are going through things physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so having some pain doesn't necessarily, you don't necessarily need to take opioids or pain pills. There are alternatives. There are holistic alternatives. Cannabis happens to be one of those holistic alternatives, which means it's just a plant. It's simply a plant. There's no additives to it. Now there are different types of cannabis, but you want to, understand and educate yourself on cannabis. But we also have to understand cannabis is a plant, and there's more than one way to consume cannabis. You don't have to smoke cannabis. There are things called tinctures, which is basically the oils, the cannabis extract in oil liquid form that you can place right under your tongue, and that can get you high as well. That can get you, feeling better as well. And all cannabis doesn't get you high. You have CBD, you have CBG, CBN. There are different components of the cannabis plant, and not all of those components get you a head high. Some people like the head high because it helps them with creativities. It helps some people with focusing. It helps some people with rest. Helps some people with anxiety. So you have to understand, like, it's not, everybody's different. Some people are gonna like different terpenes. Some people are gonna like different strains. Some people are gonna like indicas, hybrids, sativas. Some people are gonna like to smoke their weed. Some people are gonna like a tincture. Some people are gonna like to put a cream on or a lotion on. Some people are going to want to put a patch on. There's so many different ways that you can, vaporizers. There's so many different ways that you can get the cannabis into your system to help you with whatever medical need that you have. Myself, I prefer vapor. I prefer in a public setting, if it's friends, I like to, roll a joint. Tinctures are good. I like rubs as well because of, the physical pain that I do have. Rubs really help. But yeah, as a parent, as an African American dad, I'm an African American millennial dad, which is a lot because we are in 2022. And we know it's not easy being a parent. We know it's not easy being anybody in today's generation. But I really want to just show my gratitude for the plant. because I don't know if I would be here in my current form and present state without the plant, because it's really helped me that much. I mean, it's really, you talk about the insights that you get from consuming the cannabis plant, it being a spiritual thing, the spiritual relationship, all of the information that is passed on through the plant, the connections and relationships that I've had because of cannabis, the conversations. So there's so many things that, come through the plant. And then when you want to compare it to, all right, alcohol, let's say people, a lot of people revert to alcohol because of, the fact that cannabis is illegal, or people revert to other substances that may be a little bit more legal than cannabis because cannabis is still federally illegal. And so that's why we have to truly educate, the masses, because the federal legalization of cannabis is what's going to free the plant. As long as the plant is still federally illegal, you're going to have a lot of people that are like, well, it's illegal. Even though people do illegal things all day, every day, even though states have passed, legalization. So we have states in America, governors in America who have said, yeah, cannabis is legal here. We're going to tax it. We're going to make money off of it. We're going to regulate it. But our federal government is still illegal. So, and of course you're still going to have an illicit market. You're still going to have a legacy market. You're still going to have, people buying, black market. We don't like to say black market anymore because, one, obviously black, brown people have been incriminated and have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, which is mainly weed. And so instead of black market, we really like to use legacy market. Also, instead of marijuana, you really want to use cannabis, because once you get into the medical side, once you get into the terminology matters. Terms matter. Once you get into science, all those things matter. So once you become educated on certain things, you must, kind of pass on that baton. So yes, you might hear me saying weed. You can say ganja. You can say all the different slang terms for the plant. But cannabis is really the scientific term and the healthcare term that, you want to use. One, to help reduce the stigma on it, because when, again, people hear certain terms, certain things happen. If people hear marijuana, automatically they might stop listening. Automatically they might tune you out. So there's certain things that we can do to help negate some of that, stigma and some of the conversations around the topic. But yeah, all my dads out there, man, I'm with you. I'm for you. To the public, man, leave black dads alone, man. Let us be. You know what I mean? Like, let us live just like everybody else want them to live. Let us live. Let us have our perspectives. Let us raise our children. Let us be great fathers, great parents, great human beings. And if cannabis helps us to do that, by all means, we should be allowed to do it. You know what I mean? If I can go buy out the bar right now, I can go out and buy, the whole liquor store. I can go to the bar, I can go to the club, and I could drink myself to death. I can have a terrible day, and I can go get me a few Jack and Cokes. I can go get me a few, old fashions. I could get me some tequila. I could get me some vodka, and I could ruin my whole life. I could drink and drive and do all these things. Cannabis makes me want to chill. Like, cannabis literally makes me want to sit down and chill most times. I don't want to do anything. You know what I mean? I just want to relax. And if I do consume and it makes me want to do something, like either I can go work out, or I can do some art, something creative. I like to get a lot of work done. Like, I'll get emails done after I consume. I'll get creative work done. So, stop trying to put people in a box. Stop trying to demonize, the plant. And stop demonizing us as black men. It's just that simple. It's a lot of black men out here doing great things, great work. It's a lot of black men out here that are quiet, just doing their thing, They don't want any type of acknowledgement. They just want to be themselves. They don't want to be out on Front Street. Like, I don't necessarily want to be out on Front Street either when it comes to a lot of these topics. But what I've just noticed from just like life experience is that once I started playing ball at a high level and I got put on a pedestal as a football player, as an athlete, as a leader, that then put me in the limelight, in the spotlight, to have some sort of a responsibility. Whether that was a responsibility for a group of white folks who say, like, my son or my kids look up to you because you're such a great athlete, and then they force you to, be a role model in their world where, our cultures are different inherently. We speak differently. Our hair is different. The music we listen to is different. How we are raised and trained and groomed is different. How we absorb the information, how we see the information, how we, get to our wealth is a little bit different. So once I got put on a pedestal and I started to see, like, all right, they're treating me this way, but when I talk about certain things in a certain fashion, that same group of people don't like it. That same group of people doesn't like when we talk about things that are, my truth in a sense. And so, it can be tough at times to go against the grain, but, I've realized that that's just the position that I've been put in, and that's the world that I live in. And all I'm doing is sharing my story, like nothing I've said is nothing other than what I've experienced in my personal life. Even my parents were against cannabis when I was growing up in high school. But then I found out just, a few months ago, maybe more than a few months ago, maybe about a year or two ago, that my granddad used to actually grow cannabis in the house that I was growing up in as a child. So once you realize that, I'm like, I'm just carrying on, my granddad's legacy. And as any young black man, we want to carry on the legacies of our ancestors, you know what I mean? And so my granddad is no longer with us, so rest in peace, John Henry. And I didn't get to really spend a lot of time with him as a child, or in my adolescence and adulthood, but I would love to be able to leave that type of legacy for my family, for my granddad, because he was somebody that was in, he had a green thumb. He was into farming, he was into gardening and all those things. And so I think that's where we need to be. Cannabis is a cash crop, so as much as we don't want to talk about it, cannabis is money. You know what I mean? You can basically grow cannabis, sell it, and it's money. And so that's another reason why we have to understand why they don't want us selling it, because they couldn't tax it. And so because they couldn't tax it, if you're selling it on the legacy market, they demonized you for it. If you rolling, you ride nice, they're going to treat you a certain way for your cannabis consumption. And that's just the world we live in, because a lot of us aren't at the top of the food chain when it comes to economics, when it comes to business, when it comes to a lot of stuff going on in this country. So I'm done wrapping y'all up right now. I'm definitely going to start coming on, having some more dialogue and just sharing. So this message just goes out to all my black dads, all my African American fathers in cannabis. Even if you're not in cannabis, it's time for us to really get into the legal side of the industry. And for some of us, it's going to be difficult because of the amount of cash and capital you need up front to run let's say a dispensary or a cultivator. But that doesn't mean we can't be in the industry. The industry has there's other ways that you can be in the industry without even touching the plant. And so that's ancillary businesses. So marketing and advertising The cannabis industry needs marketing and advertising. The cannabis industry needs more public relations. They need more people talking about it, storytelling. We need more movies. We need more education. We need more, products and services, machines, all types of things around the cannabis plant. Everything's not just touching the plant. Also getting involved in the industry. You can take whatever skill set you have and you basically transition that over into the legal market. Obviously, you can always stay in the legacy market, but there's always, stipulations that come with that. And so, it's a lot of gray areas right now in the industry, and that's what's really crazy too is, just all of the gray areas in the cannabis industry, right, in and around the cannabis industry right now. Nobody's really, it's the wild, wild west. Like, it literally is the wild, wild west when it comes to this industry. The rules are changing every single day. More and more opportunities are coming online every single day. So we really just have to be conscious, present, and aware. And you got to be bold. You got to be a risk taker, So for me, if you made it to this part of the video, please go support my other endeavors. I have Athletes in Cannabis, which is a platform that I basically, talk with other athletes about cannabis consumption. I use as a marketing and advertising arm and opportunity, consulting, things of that nature. And then we have Ohio Cannabis Report. That's a podcast that I started with my homie Broderick Randall II. On that, we basically talk all things Ohio cannabis and basically trying to open up the dialogue in that space. And then we have Green Environmental Outreach. Green Environmental Outreach is a nonprofit 501c3 where we talk about urban gardening. We talk about everything green, so sustainability opportunities. And cannabis is that. Cannabis is green. It's more than just cannabis, right? It's more than just marijuana, smoking it to get high or smoking it as medicine, consuming it as medicine. Cannabis is also, you look at hemp. Hemp is good for cleaning up the soil. Man, all I'm gonna say is this whole body positivity thing has gone all the way up. Oh my goodness, boy. Females don't care. I just seen a chick walking with her dude. Look, they got the Gucci store coming. It's Gucci. She was with her dude, and I'm like, oh, girl, I thought she was naked at first. She ain't had no pants on. And it was like, nah, she got on. Pants was too tight and couldn't see him. I'm like, oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Lord. But, we just got to keep getting it, man. It's way too much opportunity out here. Nice little Bentley right there. I don't know if y'all seen it. Just driving around the mall. The baby's asleep, so I figured I'd just do a little joyride. Yeah, we're at Easton right now. So, Easton, run the block. But yeah, just wait. Our malls are gonna have cannabis, around it. You're gonna have stores with, you're gonna have some dispensaries most likely at the malls. And we gotta educate our children, man, because kids are gonna be consuming cannabis. There are kids with health issues that need cannabis or could use cannabis. There are children that have seizures that could use cannabis. So we really have to understand our ignorance. One, the thing about America is they give us a lot of power to be ignorant. People get a lot of money. People get paid a lot of money to be ignorant. And I just look at my perspective like, I was this close to being a multi-millionaire if I got drafted by the NFL or made it to the NFL. And I know that was a decade ago. That was before I did half the reading that I've done recently in the recent decade. But I was almost that close to being a multimillionaire. And I could tell you, I was a fool. Like, not all the way a fool, but I wasn't all the way there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I was educated. I got my, college degree. I got my, degree, and you could say, yeah, I was successful, I'm smart, but I know cats that wasn't as smart as me. They got millions of dollars. You know what I mean? I know people that are in positions right now getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're not necessarily that smart. So money doesn't always determine how smart somebody is. And so just because somebody's smart, just because somebody's in a position of power, a position of leadership, doesn't mean they know everything. So always do your own research, your own fact checking, your own background checks, because that's just the reality. Not everybody knows. And so, I'm a stay-at-home dad right now. So what do I know, right? But I get to do a lot of research. I get to do a lot of studying. But yeah, cannabis is, it's the future. It's the now. It's the future. So it's the future of medicine. It's the future of healthcare. And we're just now in the beginning stages of it. So the earlier you get in, the earlier you get involved, the better off you're going to be. You'll be a pioneer. You'll go down in history as one of the smartest, one of the best to ever do it. So again, don't be afraid to take risk. Don't be afraid to assert yourself. Don't be afraid to go against the grain. There are going to be a lot of people that tell you what to do, how to do it. But always remember, most people ain't doing it. And yeah, let's just keep getting it. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to my personal Instagram at Gerald Moore Jr. Always love tapping in with different people. Follow me, direct message me, tell me about the video you saw, how you found me or whatever. Also, you can follow the at Ohio Cannabis Report. We're also on YouTube, so type in Ohio Cannabis Report and we should pop up. Athletes in Cannabis, same thing. Athletes in Cannabis on Instagram, at Ohio Cannabis Report on Instagram. So go check those out. Holla at me. Peace.